Opening statement. I thought we wrapped up non-conference. If we're giving it a grade point, probably someplace in the high threes, not a 4.0, but very, very strong. Got a lot of, I think, rotation solved. The addition of some healthy bodies back in has made that a little bit harder on us entering the conference season. But non-conference, A-, moving on into conference now. Am excited about the first game being this whip-around coverage. I don't know how much y'all have looked at that ahead of time, but the 8 o'clock tip is because of the whip-around coverage. It's something that I think kind of came up as at our coaches' meetings when we were talking about coverage on the network. All the games being on the pluses, you can still watch the full game on the plus, but the network sometimes we were showing games that weren't hotly contested. There would be a 25 or a 30-point blowout going on, and we're missing a last-second shot someplace else. So we're going to experiment with it, and we're excited to see how it works on Thursday night.
You talk about the rotations. How much harder does it make it that you don't have much, film to look and to judge?
Yeah.
To try to.
Well, I think the two that we're talking about are Kiera and Destiny. Kiera gets the benefit of the doubt because she's done it for 3 years. We know what she can do against SEC caliber opponents. Destiny, it's a little bit more speculation and knowing what we've seen in practice and knowing what we've seen from her during her play in high school and in summer. Destiny Oberg is going to help us win a game or two in the SEC. There's no question in my mind. Her size, her competitiveness, and how she's different from the other three will help us win a game or two that we normally wouldn't have won if it had been Aaron, Taylor, and Kiera. So I just got through talking to them. That's why I was a little bit late here. It's going to come down a lot of times to matchups. But it's not going to be game film. It's going to be practice film. So that's where Kiera gets a little bit of benefit of the doubt on what she's done in the past. We know what she can do. We'll be experimenting a little bit with Destiny. I think we know what we have in Kiera and Taylor. It'll be Aaron's first experience as well. But if y'all hadn't figured it out by now, she's a gamer. She's not going to wow you with anything she does in practice or shoot around or pregame. But when she checks in, it's like this mechanism goes off in her head. So she's a gamer. I think she'll be ready, and she's proven that she can do that. So I think it's hard in that we don't know the answer to it. Coaches like to be in control, and you like to kind of know. We don't know. So we'll just have to see how it works out.
They're not a heavy three-point shooting team. You guys are. They're three-point defense. Just talk about that matchup behind the arc. Yeah,
we've been guarding people out there. We've been kind of liking teams that shoot because we're good at guarding it. But that's not what they rely on. They've played through Kennedy Carter, obviously, as any coach should. It doesn't take a Hall of Famer and an 800-win coach to figure out to play through Kennedy Carter. But, Sierra Johnson and India Jones are the two that really, really hurt us at their place last year. And then when Kennedy went out, Kayla Wells developed a really a sense of confidence that makes her tough in that mid-range. They are one of those teams that can beat you inside the arc and from the free throw line and with their rebounding. That's not our areas of strength defensively. So it's kind of one of these matchups where you see which style wins out. It's going to be hard for us to guard them on one end, but then if they try to match up with us on the other, then they've got their own set of problems. So I think it comes down to who's the best version of themselves, and then who can make adjustments based on how those teams play that night. But it's not the season opener I would have drawn up ideally. Wouldn't pick Texas A&M, who I think coaches picked them number one, didn't they, in the coaches poll? But we'll find out really quick where we're at.
I was glancing at the RPIs. You guys at 43. Yeah. Does that seem low, or is that sort of?
It's a little low right now. I would at 12-1. But I tell you what's getting ready to happen. The teams that we chose to put on our schedule, the Fordhams, the Arkansas Little Rocks, the Belmonts, the UT Martins, those guys are fixing to go into their leagues and start winning a lot of games. Stony Brook's only lost one game is to us. They're going to win. I think you're going to see those guys start to climb. Then you see within our conference, we start to play each other. And when you start playing the South Carolinas and the A&Ms, the RPI will go up. I like where we're at. I wished it would have been a little higher if we were 12-1, something in the 30s. But you got a lot of teams out there now that know how to manipulate the RPI with the non-conference, and it will start to play itself out as these first couple weeks of the season. But I would, anytime you're in this top 50 heading in, you got a chance.
When you go into conference play and have 2 point guards like you have, where you can switch them out and get more from one than the other, just how big is that when you get into conference play and can interchange your point guards like that?
Sleep a lot easier. You've got confidence that they both know what you're doing. And you can focus on those other areas, the things that we're talking about a minute ago. How are we going to stop them inside? You don't have to worry about your point guard play. And I think any coach should tell you that if you feel like they're engaged and you've got two options, you don't worry about foul trouble. You don't worry about somebody having an off night because the other one's going to be ready. I thought the other night was a good example of that. Michaela got off to a tough start in the first 3 or 4 possessions. IT gave us a huge lift, and then when Michaela came back in, she was settled down. I think those two particularly have really settled into a nice duo, if we want to put it in those terms. They pull for each other, they push each other, and I think they're both ready because of what they've done in the offseason against each other. But I can tell you I don't worry about it. I don't worry about – and we don't – this year, last year you had to worry about somebody being off. If you had one player off, we probably weren't going to be good enough on the perimeter if their shot wasn't falling. This year, I don't think mathematically possible that we're going to have everybody have an off night on the same night. I probably jinxed it, but it could happen. It won't happen.
When you coach against a good friend, and both of you know each other so well, is it kind of sometimes maybe trying to outthink the other a little bit too much, try to factor him out of it? How do you do it?
I hope not, because I'm going to lose that battle. But it is different when you're playing a friend, and for me, somebody that obviously I'm not in this game without the opportunity he gave me, but I wouldn't tell you that we want to win it any more or any less, but it is different. We were at the same game last night recruiting and talking about things that I don't think whoever else was playing in the matchups on that first SEC game, they're probably not having the same conversations we did. But I do think I know the way his mind works, having studied him and watched him. I doubt he's studied and watched me very much. He shouldn't. He's won 800 games just recently. I've studied his. So I do feel like we have a little bit of an advantage of knowing some of his tendencies, but he's pretty sly. He could set me up. He set us up that first year. He changed the name of a play when I was when I was at Washington. We went to Texas A&M, and he changed the name of a play, and I thought we had it scouted, and it was the reverse of it, and he shot me a little one of those. So I hope I don't have to outfox him. That's for sure. I'll lose that battle.
Winning that game in the tournament last year against them, confidence-wise, how much does it help a lot of these returners?
It helped us a lot at the time because of where it propelled us on into the tournament, too. But we've all been sitting around, and I just brought it to our team's attention, and I'm kind of one of those guys that let's run toward what everybody else is saying. We know everybody's saying it's because they didn't have Kennedy Carter. We've been listening to that, and we're tired of hearing of that. I think we played really good that day. I don't know if we would have won if she would. Nobody knows. But it's certainly we're tired of hearing that. So the confidence, it did help, but it also might still serve as a little bit of a chip on our shoulder, fire in our belly, whatever analogy you want to use, that we'd like to do it against. So that's not a reason for people to maybe point out that we'd win that type of game. Question here. Go ahead.
Yeah, you said A- when you came in here grading the team. What do you wanted to do better to get better results?
I felt like there was a couple of situations where we let the score of the game dictate how we performed. And I understand it's human nature. They got sick of me walking into the film room or walking into the pregame saying, hey, this team went to the NCAA tournament 7 out of the last 8 years. Hey, this team just played double overtime against a top-ranked team and then win by 50. You get that. So there's that sense. I wish that we could have looked through that a little bit better and not judged it by the scoreboard. We took a few possessions off. Now, I get it. We're picking at things that, to be a coach, to try to point out and coach. I think we finished non-conference number 1 in the country in points per possession. We were number 1 in field goal percentage, 3-point field goal percentage defense, number 1 in free throw rate. So we're having to go pretty deep to pick at something, but we didn't deserve an A+. Otherwise, I think we would have been 13-0 instead of 12-1. We could have handled that road trip a little better. There's some things. So, and there's still rotations, and there's still things that we have to perfect to be ready for this schedule that's coming up. We all understand 16 games against this depth of quality opponent, it has a grinding effect. And I can't sit here and tell you I'm sure that we're ready for that. I don't have any evidence. We don't have any evidence that we've proven that we are ready. These next 2 weeks, these first 4 games will prove whether or not we were ready or we weren't.
You've blown out the last few teams that you played by multiple points. Does anything worry you?
Yeah, I'm worried to death. I'm worried that we're not in shape. I'm worried that our starters haven't played together meaningful minutes in the fourth quarter in over a month. I'm worried that we don't have any idea how to foul down 2. I'm worried that we don't know our last second game-winning plays. We haven't had to use them. We've practiced them a lot. How many do you want of things I'm worried about? Yeah, at practice. We've tried to practice it. We tried to simulate it. We've brought in our guys' practice team. We've tried to I've been the worst official in practice for road rules. We have, as a staff, tried to do everything we can to be as ready as we can. But we've shot the ball so well, and our second units, the players continue to score. Again, I said it last week, but if you would have said before the year that we'd put 86 on a Joe Foley and 96 on a Kevin McMillan coached defense, I wouldn't have never dreamed it. So it's a credit to our kids for the way they're playing offensively, but it worries me to death on what's going to happen when we're trying to win games in the 70s and the 60s. I don't know if we can or not. I think we can. I think we've practiced it, but we don't have any reason to be confident about that yet. So I'm looking forward to it. And I know everybody thinks I'm a sandbagger, and I'm not. Every one of those games I thought we were going to lose. I really did. And I know how I know our fans, we walk in this chalk talk, and I say this is the best team we've played yet, and they're all going, yeah, sure. Yeah, sure. You said that last game. So it is. That's the way it's been. And, I know there's a smack in the face moment coming, and I'm anxious to see whether we punch back or what happens. We haven't been smacked. The Cal game wasn't a smack in the face. It was just this steady – it was like a slugfest all the way through, and then they won it at the last bell in the 15th round. We haven't got punched in the face yet, and I'm anxious to see what happens when we do.
Not to give away your plan, but is it a group effort against Carter?
Yeah, I will say this, though. I am anxious to see how Michaela Daniels does on her when we play some man. We have put her out there against – at least 4 players in the non-conference who are probably going to be pros. She was guarding the 5-player the other night. Did y'all notice that? We've really challenged her to guard a lot of different players. So, obviously, you don't sleep well at night if you think your freshman is who you're going to stop Kennedy Carter with. But I am anxious to see how she would do against her a little bit. She's very does a lot of preparation. She'll be on that film. She'll know her tendencies as well as anybody we've had. But it is a group effort, Grant. I mean, it's got to be. If not, then she's going to have a big number, and that's when they really get going. Because then she's such a good passer, and then when you give help on her, that's why India Jones is the rebounder she is. Because not the only reason, she tries really hard, and after every ball, she's a machine like that. But she's a lot of times rebounding without anybody boxing her out because they've gone to help on Kennedy's drive. So. It's a team effort. She's playing off the ball a lot this year. He's playing Shambrika, Washington at the point a whole lot. So Kennedy is playing off the ball, which makes it a little harder to guard her because she's coming from so many different spots on the floor. When she had the ball in her hands to start the offense, you knew where it was coming from. So I think that's what's made her this year particularly hard to guard. But, yeah, it's going to take every one of us. And then rebounding is always a concern against an A&M team because that's always a point of emphasis that he makes.
All good?
Happy New Year, everybody.